Hi, Professor. In this presentation, I'll walk you through my analysis of ACE Corp, focusing on three main areas: systematic liquidation, valuation of ACE as a standalone firm, and valuation from perspective of an Aqua or Gamma. I also explain how synergy, intrinsic value, and the exchange ratio play a role in merger decision. So, let's start with systematic liquidation of a venture. A systematic liquidation means shutting down a venture in an organized and controlled way rather than through panic or sudden collapse. Assets are sold gradually, obligations are paid, and decisions are made while considering overall market conditions. The important point here is that liquidation doesn't happen in isolation. Broader financial conditions and systematic risk matter because selling asset during market stress can significantly reduce value. So there are some advantages and disadvantages of systematic liquidation. One of major advantage of systematic liquidation is that it helps avoid panic selling. Selling assets gradually usually leads to better prices and reduces losses. It also allows managers to be mindful of systematic risk and avoid adding pressure to already a stressed market. However, there are drawbacks. So, a slow liquidation can increase administrative costs and ongoing debt obligations. Also, also if market conditions are getting worse over time, delaying liquidation could actually result in lower asset value later. So now moving on to ACE corporation analysis. So Corp was formed 5 years ago by the original founders and some VCs with 5 million shares. To estimate the current total value of ACE, I use the free cash flow approach. This method is appropriate because ACE is in a mature stage with a stable and growing cash flows. So the growth rate and weighted average cost of capital are given 6 and 15% respectively, and the free cash flows estimated for the next year at 5.2 million. So enterprise value represent the value of ACE operating asset and it belongs to capital providers, both debt holders and equity holders. It's just not for shareholders. So in this case, like I said, the free cash flow is given 5.2 million, and it's divided by weighted average cost of capital 15% minus growth wage 6%. So the enterprise value come to almost 57.78 million dollars. It's important to um, so this value actually represent the firm's, like I said, operating assets, and it's based on the present value. But it's very important to distinguish the enterprise value with the equity value. So enterprise value reflects the value of the firm's operation, while equity value represent what is left for shareholders after debt is paid and surplus cash is added back. So in this case, we were given the total debt for 17.5 million and the surplus cash was $4 million. So by adjusting the debt for debt and surplus cash, the ACE equity value is approximately 44.3 million. This distinction is a core concept in valuation, and it's critical for understanding who actually benefits from firm's value. So now that we have the equity value, we can allocate the VC's portion and also founder portion. So VC's 60% belongs to VCs, so it's going to be $26.6 million, and 40% belongs to founders, which is $17.7 million. And the per value the per share value is also the total equity divided by total shares. The total shares is 5 million, so actually per share value comes to $8.86. In the next slide, we have gain, percentage gain and internal rate of return. So for the gain percentage, we have the current value minus initial investment divided by initial investment, which we calculated for VC gain percentage for 255%, and for founders, it's like a very big amount of 1,670%. And also for internal rate of return, which is current value divided by initial investment in power of 1 divided by the total period minus 1, which is for VCs calculated 29% and founders calculated 78%. So these results show a strong return for both groups, for VCs and founders, especially for founders who benefited from a much lower initial investment. So next we like I evaluated ACE from the perspective of Gamma, which is a acquiring firm. The Gamma estimated free cash flow for the next year 5.5 million versus 5.2 million for ACE. And also the growth rate and weighted average for a weighted average capital cost is like estimated 7 and 16% respectively. So if we calculate the enterprise value from Gamma perspective, we're going to have 61.1 million. So we'll see that there is an additional value that Gamma expect to create beyond ACE's standalone value. This difference called synergy. So Gamma believes it can improve cash values through operating efficiencies and increase the long-term growth rate, even though the business become riskier and the weighted average capital cost increases. So if we calculate the equity value and also the per share value accordingly, we're gonna have a 47.6 million for equity value after adjusting the debt and adding back the surplus cash, and also the per share value comes to 9.52. So we see that is like 66 cents more than the standalone per share value, which is actually our synergy benefit. So actually synergy, it's not only about the higher numbers. It's reflect improvements such as cost saving, better use of distribution channels, shared resources, and also and shared resources. However, the higher weighted like average cost, capital cost reflects in integration risk and execution challenges. This shows that synergy comes with trade-offs, not just upside. So in next slide, we're gonna have Gamma's intrinsic value per share. So intrinsic value refers to what a company is truly worth based on fundamentals, not market price. So Gamma's total market value is $600 million, and they have like 30 million outstanding shares. So the intrinsic value is market value divided by total shares, which is $20 per share. And in our last slide, we calculated the exchange ratio between ACE and Gamma. So the exchange ratio tells us how many Gamma shares ACE shareholders receive for each ACE share. So in this case, ACE shareholders receive about 0.46 shares of Gamma for each ACE share. This reflects the reality that acquirers typically retain a portion of synergy to protect their own shareholders, which explains why synergy often appears to disappear after mergers. Thank you for your time and consideration. So this is three references I have used, and have a great evening.